Java project, Selenium test using Java. Okay, let's get started. So you might be familiar with a lot of e-commerce websites, right? Like Flipkart, Amazon, Jabong, and so on and so forth, right? So let's say our objective for this session is to get the title of the Flipkart homepage. That is, we need to automate the process or the steps that we need to follow to open Flipkart and retrieve the web page title using Selenium in Java. Okay, now if we are testing or performing these actions manually, how will we do it? We'll first open the browser, we'll navigate to the address bar, we'll type www.flipkart.com, and then we'll check for the browser title, and then we'll get it, right? And by now, we know that when we perform tests or steps like this manually, it's called manual testing, right? In other words, manual testing basically involves human testers who carefully evaluate the software's functionality and they follow a series of steps, right? On the other hand, instead of manually executing each step, automation testing allows us to break them down into systematic steps, or you can also call all of the steps as test scenario, right? They can be is usually done with the help of a tool. Okay, and if you look at it, when you're performing automation testing, there is something called as a test scenario, as we just discussed. Okay, it's basically a sequence of steps or a sequence of actions that are designed to test a specific feature or functionality of an application. Okay, and in our case, the sequence of steps that we will need to follow for getting the web page title of Flipkart website is to the first step would be to open the Chrome browser. Okay, the second step would be to navigate to the web URL, right? So the www.flipkart.com URL, that is where we need to navigate. Okay, and then we need to get the title of the web page. And finally, once we get the title, we'll close the web browser. Okay, right? Let's try this out once. All right. So the first step is to open the Chrome browser, right? So what we'll do, we'll just right click over here, click on a new window. Okay. So right now in my perspective, manually, I know where my Chrome browser is and I'm opening a new window, a new instance of that Chrome browser. Okay. So we have opened the Chrome browser. What's the next step? We need to navigate to flipkart.com, right? So we'll just simply type flipkart.com and press enter. And this is how the web page will open. Okay. And the next step is for me to get the title. We can see that it's online shopping site for something. Okay. So all these steps we are doing manually, right? So we have seen the title and then I'm also manually closing the web browser. Okay, let's get back. So this is something that we are doing manually, right? So we need to, we are manually opening the Chrome browser. We are manually typing in the URL. We are manually closing it, right? So what if we need to do the same thing, the same steps in an automated manner? Right. So to do so, as we have discussed so far, we'll be using Selenium and Java. Okay. And when you talk about creating a Selenium project, especially when you're working with Java, there are two approaches. Okay. You can either use a plain Java code, write a Java program entirely and then use it, or you can use a tool called as Maven. Okay. Maven is a build automation and dependency management tool, which is primarily used for Java projects altogether. Okay. It basically manages the dependencies and it also helps you automate certain tasks like downloading the projects or dependencies, compiling the code, running different tests, packaging the project, and so on and so forth. Okay. In simple terms, dependencies are external libraries or external modules that are needed by a project to function properly. Okay, so to set up and configure the Selenium project using Maven, we'll need to first create the project in IntelliJ. The IDE setup that we have done earlier, we'll be using the same IDE, and next we'll add the Selenium web driver for it. Okay, right. So the first step that we need to do is to open the start menu and we'll search for IntelliJ. And if there are any kind of terms and conditions shown, we'll just accept them. Okay, next we can choose the theme of our choice and select the skip and remaining set defaults. Okay, and then once the new pop-up window opens, we need to click on create new project. And once that is done, we'll be selecting Maven because we are going to create a Maven project. Okay. And because we are going to use Selenium with Java, we need to configure the Java development kit folder and we need to connect it to our Maven project. Okay. To do so, we can just click on new and select the JDK from the location where we have downloaded it. Okay. And once we have done, the project's SDK section will look something like this. It will show Java 11 or something like that. Okay. And then we'll click on next. And the next step is to simply configure our project. Okay. Now just think of it like this. When you're working in an organization, there are multiple projects that your team might work on, right? So in such scenarios, you'll need to ensure that the project you're working on is unique. Okay, so because in a team there are multiple people might be working on multiple projects. So we need to ensure that whatever project we are working on is unique. Okay, for that we need to specify something called as a group ID or an artifact ID. Okay, let's try to understand that better. So group ID and artifact ID act as unique identifiers for every project. Okay, you can think of group ID like a unique name for your project's group or your project organization. Okay, it helps you differentiate your projects from others, especially when you're working in the same organization or same repository where multiple people are working on different projects in the same location. Okay, so you can use the group ID as a unique name. And artifact ID is basically the name for a specific project or a module within the group. Let's say your entire team is working in an organization, okay, and the entire team is working on separate projects but in the same context. Okay, so that context will have the group ID, and your own project, your own individual project that you're responsible for and that you uniquely want to work on will have an artifact ID. Okay, it helps us differentiate between different modules or different projects within the same group. Okay, and in this case, because we are building just an example test scenario, we'll name our group ID as org.example. Okay, and we'll give the artifact ID as first-test. In fact, you You can also specify anything of your choice. Just make sure that it is unique and easy to remember. Okay, and then we'll name our project as first test, where we are going to follow the Pascal case approach, as in the first letters of each word will be an uppercase letter, capital F first and capital T test. Okay, it's a best practice to follow Pascal case for project naming convention. Okay, right. So once done, our project gets created and it should look something like this. Okay, let's try these things out once. All right, so if you have installed IntelliJ as we have done in the previous session, okay, you should either have an icon over here, or alternatively you can click on the start icon and simply search for IntelliJ, and you'll be able to see an application like this. Okay, you just need to click on it, and once you do that, in certain scenarios you will be able to see the confirmation, or you'll see a small window something like this. For this case, let's not import any settings altogether. Okay, click on continue, and you'll have something, you'll have another pop-up window like this. Okay, so in certain scenarios, you'll also see terms and conditions. If you see them, just click on accept. Okay, right. And now let's say I want the dark theme for my IntelliJ IDE. Okay, and once I select this, click on skip remaining and set defaults. Okay, and this will load and it will show you a new pop-up window. All right, so here you can see create new project, import project, open, and so on and so forth. We need to click on create new project, and once you do that, it will show you multiple options over here. You can create a Java project, Java FX, Android, and so on and so forth. But right now our focus is on Maven, so we'll select Maven. Okay, and here you can see all the different kinds of plugins and connections that Maven has. Okay, so here, because we are working with Java, we'll need to select the JDK file that we have downloaded. Okay, so if you observe, we had downloaded the JDK file, we had extracted it, right? So you can see this folder over here, open JDK, and here is the JDK, the Java Development Kit original file. Okay, so we'll have to go to this path and connect it to Maven. Okay, let me just minimize this, and here to connect that, you need to click on new, and once you see this, you need to navigate to the point where you'll be able to see this particular JDK folder. Okay, right, let me just go there. This is the file that you need to select, JDK 11.0.2. All right, so click on OK, and once you have added it, you'll be able to see this project SDK section updated as 11, Java version 11.0.2, and so on and so forth. Okay, once done, click on next. And now it's time to give our group ID and our artifact ID. Okay, right? So obviously, because we are working in a particular group, assuming that we are working in a particular group, we'll give the name, and because we are working on an example scenario, we'll just name it as org.example. Okay, and the artifact ID, we'll give a unique ID to our project, right? Artifact ID, think of it like your project ID. Okay, right? So we'll name it as first-test. Okay, and then click on next, and this is where you'll have to give your project name. And what is the best practice for this? Following Pascal case, right? So we'll type first, F-I-R-S-T-T-E-S-T without spaces. We'll be following the Pascal case, and let's leave the project location as default for now. Okay, and once you click on finish, you should be able to see a pop-up window which looks something like this. All right, so in my case, I just don't want the tips on startup, so I'll just simply uncheck this box and close it. Okay, right, let's get back. Now we have created the Maven project. We have just created our first own project. The next step is to be able to run our test seamlessly, right? And however, in certain situations, what happens is there could be certain issues with the required plugins, and it could be due to a variety of reasons. Maybe your network connectivity, maybe the plugins have not been downloaded properly. There could be a variety of reasons. Okay, to check if your Maven project has its plugins installed correctly or not, you can click on the Maven tab and check if the required plugins are downloaded or not. Okay, if they are not downloaded, it will show red marks or red errors like this as you see in the screen. Okay, to fix that, all you need to do is simply navigate to users folder in your C drive, and whichever username your laptop has or your computer has, and then there will be a folder called as .m2. Okay, you just need to delete that M2 folder, and you can get back to Maven and click on the Maven tab and refresh it immediately. Okay, right, let's check it out once. So generally, when you set up your project, ideally there should not be any issues at all. But there are certain situations where you might be able to see certain issues with the plugins part. Okay, in my case, the plugins are clearly installed, neatly installed, so there's no issue with that. However, if there are any kind of issues, we just need to delete the .m2 folder and click on this reload button. Okay, once you click on reload button, everything will be set. Okay, let's get back. So now another important thing that we need to note over here is the project structure. So whenever you create a project in IntelliJ, you'll find the necessary directory structure, the build configuration, server configuration files and all. Okay, basically these components are there to keep your entire development process in an organized, efficient and error-free manner. Okay, so there's also another file called as POM or pom.xml. Okay, in the context of Maven, POM basically means project object model, POM. Okay, it's an XML file which serves as the central configuration file for your entire project. Okay, think of XML as another markup language which is similar to HTML. Okay, so this pom.xml file, it also defines the project's dependencies, what other plugins you need, repositories, other project related information, right? As in where you will find what kind of information, what kind of external dependencies are considered over here, and so on and so forth, right? Just think of it like this. Overall, the pom.xml file will serve as a blueprint for your entire project. Okay, Maven will read this file and perform tasks like resolving the dependencies, executing the different kinds of builds, managing the entire project lifecycle, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how a typical POM or POM file will look like. All right, so there's also a folder called as the source folder or the SRC folder. All right, this is basically the main folder where you store the source code of your application, right? And then there are the test folders, which is where you will write your different test scripts, test data, test configurations, and all. Okay, so in simple terms, these test elements are used to automate the entire web application testing process, and we can also organize the test cases accordingly. Okay, it's important to note that while this structure is kind of like a common convention, it's not mandatory. Okay, Maven will allow you full flexibility in customizing your project structure based on your requirements and based on the project conventions altogether. Okay, right. So by now we have set up the project in IntelliJ. The next step is to add the Selenium WebDriver. Obviously, because we are working with WebDriver, we want to run a Chrome driver also, right? So as we discussed in the previous sessions, Selenium WebDriver is a powerful tool which allows us to control web browsers in a programmatical manner. In the sense, we can write a script and the script will execute the browser. Okay, it basically provides us a set of APIs or methods that enable us to interact with different web elements. It can also help us in performing different kinds of actions like clicking a button, filling a form, navigating pages, extracting data, and so on and so forth, right? And in our context, it is used with Maven to automate web browser interactions and perform any kind of automated testing altogether. Okay, right. Now let's see how we can add the Selenium WebDriver to our project. Okay, so we know that the pom.xml is a configuration file and it is used to add project dependencies, right? Okay, so there are a few things that we need to observe over here. You see, we can add the dependencies or whichever external supported files and tools, etc., into our project so that our project works seamlessly and we can easily perform the task that we want to. Okay, so we are working on building a test case using Selenium with Java, and we are using Maven as a tool to help us do that. Okay, and whenever we want to add a dependency or support files to our projects, there are a huge number of resources that are available out there. And in fact, these resources are actually built by the open source community as well. Okay, and one such resource is the Maven Central Repository. Okay, so it has a specific URL that will be provided to you in the cheat sheet. Okay, and you can refer to any of the resources that you need and you can add them to the project you are working on a case-to-case basis. Okay, let's see how to do that. So for our project, we are looking to include the Selenium WebDriver and its corresponding components for our Java project. So what we are basically doing, we are combining Selenium WebDriver along with using Java programming to achieve whatever automation we want to do, right? And we are taking the help of Maven for this. And what we need to do over here is we need to add the relevant dependency to our Maven project or whichever project that we are working on. And where will we add that dependency? In our pom.xml file. Okay, so here, as you can see over here, this is the structure, the project structure that we see. Okay, so you have a folder called as .idea, then you have a folder called as .src, basically the source folder where we'll keep our source code. Okay, and then you have the pom.xml file, which is something that you can see over here, right? By default, the pom.xml file is the first one that gets open, although it changes from a case-to-case basis, right? So right now you can see that this is the pom.xml file. Okay, right, and now we need to add the corresponding dependencies over here in the XML file. Okay, so for that, what we'll do is we'll go to the Maven Central Repository. All right, so the URL is mvnrepository.com, and in the search bar, because we are working with Selenium WebDriver and we are going to program in Java, we are just simply searching for Selenium Java. Okay, and here you can see the first one that is available. Okay, so org.selenium, hq.selenium, or something like that. Okay, so here there are multiple versions of the tool available, or the dependency. There are multiple versions of the dependency available. Okay, we will choose the latest one, which is 4.9.1. Okay, and here under the Maven tab, you can see the code that we can take and directly paste it in the pom.xml file. Okay, now we already know that pom.xml file is where all our project's primary configurations are, right? So that is why we'll copy this Maven code and we'll paste it into our pom.xml file. Okay, right? So let's just select it and right click, copy. Okay, let's navigate to our ID. Okay, I've just maximized it. Okay, now, so here, just like we have a container in HTML, we can define things similarly here in XML also, right? So what we'll do is, because we are basically going to add a dependency to our project, we'll add this code in a parent element called as dependencies. Okay, where so this basically means that in the dependencies section or dependencies container, we can add all the different dependencies that our project will need. Okay, so what we'll do is let's just create dependencies, right? So dpndncies, dependencies is basically the parent container. All right, so yes, so this is how it will look like, and we'll just paste the code that we have copied over here. Okay, so here you can see group ID, artifact ID, the version, and so on and so forth. Okay, right? So with the configuration that we have provided, Maven will basically download the Selenium Java library, basically with the version 4.9.1 from the specified group, and it will include it into our project. Right? So in simple terms, it allows us to use the Selenium WebDriver API and its associated functionalities as part of our Java project. Okay, and once we have added the code, we have modified the pom.xml file, right? So it's time to apply the changes. So whenever you want to apply the changes, we can just simply open the Maven tab. So this is where you'll find it. Okay, just click on the Maven tab and click on the refresh button. Okay, or reload button. And once you do that, we have effectively basically added all the modified changes to our Maven project. Okay, right? Let's get back. So yeah, as we have seen, the MVN repository or the Maven repository is a centralized source of different kinds of software artifacts, which makes it easier for developers to manage dependencies and build their projects, right? So we have opened the Maven central repository, and then we searched for a dependency that we needed, Selenium-Java, right? And then we opened the latest version 4.9.1, and then we copied the code, and then we pasted it into the dependencies in our pom.xml file, okay? And as we have understood, the Selenium Java dependency will provide support for the Selenium WebDriver, which is kind of the main component that is used for our browser automation scenario, okay? Going forward, you can explore more such dependencies and play around with them as well, okay? And once we have identified or modified the pom.xml file and we have added the dependencies, to apply the changes, we'll need to click on the reload button, right? And where will you find it? The reload icon will be available in the Maven tab, and we can just simply click on it to apply the changes, okay? So this is how we can add a dependency or the supporting files to our project. And going forward, on a case-to-case basis, you can explore many such other dependencies as well, okay? Right. So till now, we have understood what Maven is, why we need to use it, and how we can configure the Selenium WebDriver into our Java project, right? We can do that using Maven, and for that we just need to add the required dependencies, okay? What we'll do now is we'll move ahead and write our first Selenium test using Java. All right. Now, before that, let's revisit our objective for this session. Our objective is to get the title of the Flipkart homepage. That is, we need to automate the process or automate the steps to open Flipkart and retrieve the web page title using Selenium in Java, okay? So if you're doing it manually, what we'll do, we'll open the application, as in we'll first open Google Chrome, and then we'll open the Flipkart website, and then we'll enter the Flipkart URL, and then once the page loads, we'll check the title, and then we'll grab it. Right? So we basically are doing all the steps manually. And by now we understood that when we do this manually, it's called manual testing. And it basically involves human testers who carefully evaluate the software functionality on a step-by-step basis, right? So if you look at it, we had basically performed a series of steps in sequence in a particular order, right? And in the context of automation testing, it's called as a test scenario. That is, a sequence of steps or actions that are designed to test a specific feature or functionality is called as a test scenario, right? Whenever you think of test scenario, just imagine this, there are a series of steps that you need to follow, as simple as that, okay? So in our case, this series of steps first we need to open the Chrome browser, right? We did that. We found out where the Chrome browser icon is. We opened a Chrome browser window, and then we navigate to the flipkart.com website, okay? So for that, we went to the address bar. We sent a request, or we basically entered the URL, right? Which is www.flipkart.com. And then once the page loads, we will get the title. And then once we are done with the task, we'll close the browser. Okay, so we also know that we can perform the exact same steps that we did in manual testing, and we can do that with the help of a tool. In our case, it's the Selenium WebDriver, and to make it work, we are using Java programming language. Okay, and when we do that, it's called automation testing. Okay, so coming back to our Maven or Selenium project that we have created so far, okay, the project structure contains a folder called as test. Okay, and this directory or this folder contains the test related code and the test related resources so that we can execute the project, right? It could be test scripts, test data, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these elements are used to automate the web application testing process, and we can also organize the test cases. Okay, and the purpose of having a dedicated test folder is so that we can keep our test code separate from our development code altogether. Okay, what we'll do now is let's create a new Java file in our Java package, and we'll write our test within that. Okay, and to do that, you just need to simply click on the left side project structure, click on new, and select Java class, and then create a file. And once done, this is how our new Java file will look like. Okay, let's go ahead and try it out. All right, so we are in the IDE, okay, and here you can see the SRC folder. Just open it, and this is where you'll be able to see the test folder, okay, and just we need to open that, and here you can see the Java file folder as well. Okay, you just need to right click over here and select new and select Java class. Okay, so basically it means that you're creating a new Java file. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll give the name as Flipkart title test. Okay, so usually when you're writing test cases or test classes, we use the word test as a suffix to the entire name as a best practice, so that anybody who's working on it will get to understand that yes, this is a test file. Okay, right, so let's give it a name in Pascal case, Flipkart title test. Okay, so we have given the name, clicked on OK, and a new file will get created, Flipkart title test.java, wherein you'll be able to see a code like public class Flipkart title test and so on and so forth. Okay, so for the sake of better readability, what I'll do is I'll just increase the font size. Okay, so let me just go for 16 and click on apply. All right, so I hope you'll be able to see it in a bigger picture. Okay, right, so let's just close this off and let's get back. So let's take a look at our test scenario, right? There are 4 fundamental steps. One, we need to open the Chrome browser, then we'll need to navigate to the Flipkart URL, then we need to get the web page title, and then we need to close the browser. Okay, so let's see how we can automate all of these steps one by one. Okay, we'll start off with the opening the Chrome browser part. So when you open the Chrome browser manually, you as an individual, you know where exactly the browser related file is, and then you go there, you click on it to open the browser. But when you're trying to automate this step, you're basically asking a tool to open the browser, right? But how will the program or whatever script or whatever tool you're using, how will it know where exactly Chrome is? Just think about it. See, we already have the Chrome driver executable with us, right? And we know that Chrome driver is specifically designed for us so that we can automate interactions with the Chrome web browser. Okay, it enables the Selenium web driver to simulate user actions like clicking a button, filling a form, navigating to pages, and so on and so forth, right? And to tell the system where exactly the Chrome driver executable is, we just need to add the path to the code. Okay, and the code for that, the code for us to add such kind of Chrome driver to our existing code is that system.setProperty of, it's a method, set property is a method, and where we'll mention that webdriver.chrome.driver. We are effectively telling the code to go and select the web driver called as Chrome driver. Okay, and then we'll provide the path to the Chrome driver. Okay, so we'll be adding this path in the main method. So what happens is when you add this code, it sets the system property called as webdriver.chrome.driver to the specified path of the Chrome driver executable file. Okay, so just think of it like this: webdriver.chrome.driver is the key or the property name that basically represents the Chrome driver executable in the system properties. Okay, this path to Chrome driver is where we'll mention the exact location in our system. Okay, right? So we'll obviously update it with the actual part of the Chrome driver executable file on our machine. Okay, let's go ahead and try this out. Now we know that we need to add this entire Chrome driver executable path over here. Okay, for that we need to write a main method as well, right? So what we'll do is public static void main. We are writing the main main function or main method. Okay, so here we'll have the string arguments. So string square brackets arguments. Okay, and this is where we'll actually start writing our code. Okay, so what we are basically doing is we are setting the path, or we are basically setting the system path. Okay, and we are setting the property. The best part about this IDE is that it will also suggest you the next characters. Okay, so we are basically setting the system property, right? Where we'll mention that it's web driver. We are asking it to look for a web driver called as Chrome dot driver. Okay, so we're effectively giving the Chrome driver, and for now let's keep it as a path to Chrome driver. We'll replace this with the actual path. Okay, so what we have basically done is we have added a particular command or a particular code. Let's just so we have added a particular code which basically tells the system or tells the code where to look for a Chrome driver. Okay, let's get back. Right, and here in place of the path to Chrome driver, we'll actually put the actual path of the Chrome driver executable that we have downloaded from online. Okay, and how do you do that? First of all, if you have just downloaded the file and if you have not extracted it, you can simply extract it. Right, in the latest versions of Windows, we can actually navigate to the file location, right click on the file and click on copy as path. Alternatively, you can also click on the folder path and copy it and add the file name as needed. Okay, so sometimes when you directly copy the path or directly copy the file, there will be certain extra characters that get added in the IDE when you copy paste it. Okay, and if you don't remove them, it might cause unexpected behavior, so it's better to remove them. Okay, let's try this out as well. All right, now we know that we have downloaded our Chrome driver win32.zip in the previous session. Okay, so in our case, I've extracted it. If you want to extract it, just right click on it, select extract all, and then continue. Okay, and once you download it, it'll look something like this. You'll have a Chrome driver.exe file. Okay, now you just need to copy the path in the latest versions of Windows. You can just simply right click on it and you'll see an option called as copy as path. You can also do Ctrl+Shift+C. Okay, so in our case, we are just clicking on copy as path and the path will be copied. Okay, right, and then we just need to go over here into our IDE, and where we have written the path to Chrome driver, we just delete it and Ctrl+V. We are pasting it, right? And if you observe, there's an extra set of characters, right? Backslash, double quotes. Okay, so we just need to remove that so that there are no errors altogether. Okay, right. Now we just need to give a semicolon over here. Don't forget about the semicolon. Okay, and we'll just Ctrl+S to save it. Right. You can also go to File and click on Save. Right. So for now, we'll just use the shortcut Ctrl+S. Okay, right. Let's get back. Now we have basically specified to the system at so and so location you'll have the Chrome driver executable available. Okay, so this is similar to the case where we know where exactly the Chrome browser file is, and the next step is to open it. Right, for that what we'll need is we'll need the Selenium WebDriver library. Okay, and to be able to use the WebDriver library, we'll need to first import it into our code. Okay, and in addition to the WebDriver library, because we are working with Chrome, we'll also need to import the Chrome driver class as well. Okay, and for that we'll need to write a code which basically says import org.openqa.selenium.webdriver, and then we'll also import the Chrome driver related files. Okay, right, so these are important statements that these are basically the import statements that will bring in the necessary classes from the Selenium WebDriver library. Okay, the WebDriver interface basically represents the browser. Okay, it provides methods for browser automation, and the Chrome driver class that we are going to import is basically the implementation of WebDriver specifically related to the Chrome browser as well. Okay, right, let's try that out and come back. All right, so when you're writing the import statements, always remember that you need to write them first. The first and foremost statements in a code, in a Java code, should be import statements. Okay, right. So we'll just write import, and we want to import openqa.selenium. We need to download the WebDriver part. Okay, so here you can see the WebDriver. Okay, let's just select WebDriver and give a semicolon. Okay, and then we need to import the org.openqa. We need to get the Chrome driver from the Chrome part under Selenium, right? So we'll just select Selenium Chrome and we'll have Chrome driver. right? So we'll select that and give a semicolon. Okay, so we have basically downloaded the import statements. We basically imported the necessary classes that we need to execute this project. Okay, right? Let's just save it and let's get back. All right, so the next step is to create an instance of the Chrome driver class, which will initialize the Chrome browser session, and it will allow us to interact with the Chrome browser, right? So basically this is similar to us going there, finding out where exactly the Chrome browser file is. We'll need to open a new window, right? So this is similar to that. Okay, basically this instance will serve as a bridge between whatever test script we are writing and the Chrome browser, and it enables the Selenium WebDriver to control and interact with the Chrome browser during this entire automation testing process. Okay, and the code for that will be pretty much straightforward because we have imported the WebDriver method or WebDriver module. We'll write WebDriver space driver equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, so what it basically does is it initializes a new Chrome browser session, and it allows you to control the browser programmatically through the driver object. We are basically creating an object over here. Okay, and once the driver object is created, you can use various methods and properties provided by this WebDriver interface so that you can navigate web pages, interact with various elements on the page, extract information, and do any kind of action altogether, right? Let's try this out as well. Okay, so here what we need to do is, let's say we are basically opening the Chrome browser. Okay, so let's add a comment. Open the Chrome browser. Okay, and here the code for that will be, we'll basically add the WebDriver dot, we need to just give a space, right? So WebDriver driver equal to, we're creating an object over here. Okay, so new Chrome driver. Okay, right, so let's give a semicolon over here, Control S. So effectively what we are doing is we are creating a new instance of this. Okay, right, and now if you want to execute the code, you can just simply right click on this. Okay, and here you'll be able to see run Flipkart title, whatever our file name is or project name is, and just once we click on this, it will get built and it will get initialized altogether. Okay, right. And this is how you'll be able to see the browser opening. Okay, right. So what we have basically done is we have told the program, whatever program we are writing, we have told the program that we need to run the Chrome driver, and that Chrome driver is available at so and so location, and we are initializing a new object called as driver, and we are creating a new instance of the Chrome browser window. Okay, it's similar to us going there and opening the Chrome browser window. Okay, right. Let's get back. Now, another interesting thing about Selenium WebDriver interface is that it provides you a wide range of methods that allow you to interact with web elements, right? You can navigate through web pages, perform various actions like filling a form or maybe clicking on a button, and so on and so forth, right? For example, you have the get method, using which the get method, you'll be able to load a new web page into it, okay? And then you have the get title method, which can grab the web page title, and then you have the get current URL, click, and so on and so forth, right? So these kind of different methods will be available for you as a reference in your cheat sheets as well. You can explore them, okay? So we have successfully completed the first step, okay? We have set the Chrome driver path. Basically, we are telling our script where exactly it needs to look to open the Chrome browser, okay? And then we configured the WebDriver instance, basically using the Selenium WebDriver method to create a new instance of the Chrome browser, okay? Remember, we are simply automating the steps that a manual tester will follow, okay? And for that, we are using the Selenium WebDriver and Java to achieve that, okay? Now, we have opened our Chrome browser. The next step is to navigate to the required URL, right? So whenever you open the browser, you will type in a URL, right? So that's the next step, and let's see how to do it, okay? So as we discussed, the Selenium WebDriver has a wide range of methods that will allow us to do a wide variety of actions, okay? For our requirement, what we need to do is we need to navigate to a specific URL, that is www.flipkart.com or https.flipkart.com. Okay, so here in this scenario, we can use the get method, okay, wherein you can just simply mention the URL that we need to visit in the parenthesis of the get method. And because we have already created the WebDriver instance, as in we have already opened the Chrome browser, the code for that will be driver.getOff, and there we'll mention the https.flipkart.com or whatever the URL is. Okay, so if you break it down, driver is basically the instance of the WebDriver. In our case, it's the Chrome driver that we have created earlier. Okay, and then get method is basically provided by the WebDriver interface, which will help us navigate to the specific URL. Okay, and this flipkart.com is basically the URL which we want to navigate to. Okay, when you run this code, what happens is WebDriver will open the specific URL in the browser window that we have created. Okay, in this case, it will open the Flipkart website and it will load flipkart.com URL. Okay, let's try this out as well. All right, so let's say our objective over here is to navigate to the given URL. Okay, so let's write given URL. So I'm just writing comments so that it will be easy for us to read. Okay, now till now we have created an instance, an object, right, driver. So we just need to use the get method to go to the specific URL. Okay, so we'll write driver dot get off. Here we can give a string URL. Okay, so remember always that the get method will take a string. Okay, we can simply give http or https / www.flipkart.com. okay, or you can simply copy the URL and paste it over here. Okay, and once we are done with it, we'll just click on Control S, save it, and then right click and run Flipkart title main. Okay, so depending on your system resources and the available RAM and a lot of other factors, it might take a couple of seconds to execute. Okay, so what has happened, we have first created a new web browser window, okay, using driver equal to new Chrome driver, and then we have used the get method to actually go ahead and navigate to flipkart.com URL. Okay, right, so this is how it will load. And let's just close the browser window and let's get back. Right. So we are done with the second step in our test scenario as well. Right. In a manual case, we would directly type the URL into the address bar. However, when we are automating it, we'll have to programmatically write and tell the script what to do. Okay. So the next step would be to get the title of the web page. Let's see how to do that. So just like in the get method, Selenium WebDriver also provides another method called as the get title method. Okay. It basically allows us to retrieve the title of a web page. And the code for this will be a string title equal. We also have to print the title, right? So which is why we'll use system.out.println of whatever variable we have given. Okay. So if you break it down, string title basically creates a new string variable called as title to basically store whatever information we get. Okay, driver is obviously the instance of the web driver. In our case, the Chrome driver that we use to create a new browser window. Okay, the get title method is provided by the WebDriver interface. It retrieves the title of the current web page. Okay, and system.out.println will basically print whatever value it has been given. Okay, when these lines of code are executed, the get title method is called on the WebDriver instance, and it will retrieve the current web page title, and this title is then stored in the title variable, and then we'll print it using the system.out.println statement. Okay, so this will allow us to see the title of the web page that is getting displayed in the browser. Okay, when we print it, we'll be able to see it in the console. Okay, right. And effectively, if the title gets printed, it also means that the web page is loading properly. Okay, let's try this out. All right, so let's just say we want to get the web page title. Okay, so for the code for that is pretty straightforward. We want to have a new string called title where we want to get the data from the driver dot get title method. Right, so get title method, wherein once we run this particular method, we'll have the title of the particular web page, whichever we have loaded in the previous statements. Okay, and then we'll have to print that string. Okay, so we'll just write system.out.println of this title variable. Okay, right. So we'll just write it, and then all we need to do is simply run the code. But before that, save the code. Okay, and then we'll just run it. And as I said, like based on your system configuration, it might take a couple of seconds to load. Right. So here we can see that this Flipkart.com website has opened, and it should look something like online shopping site for mobiles and so on and so forth. Right. If you see here, we can see that the title has been grabbed here, online shopping site for mobiles, electronics, and so on and so forth. Okay. So we have successfully printed this entire title over here. Okay. Let's just close the browser window and let's get back. Okay, so till now we have automated the first three steps in our test scenario, right? We have opened the Chrome browser, we have navigated to the specific URL using the get method, and we have gathered the title of the web page using the get title method. Now, if you observe, we have been manually closing the browser instance. Whenever we execute our code, we get a new browser instance open, okay? And we have been manually closing it. Let's try to automate that as well, okay? So the code to close the browser instance is pretty simple. We have the browser instance driver, right? We have the object. We'll just add the quit method over here, okay? We already know that driver is the instance that we have created for the Selenium WebDriver, or in our case, the Chrome driver. The quit method basically closes the created browser instance. Okay, so what happens over here is when you run driver.quit statement, it instructs the WebDriver to close whatever browser window is available. Okay, and it also ensures that the browser is closed properly and any associated processes are terminated also. Okay, it's an important point to remember over here is that it's a good practice to call the driver.quit method at the end of your entire test script so that you clean up all the resources and you ensure that whatever tests you have done, once they are done, the browser is closed. Okay, so that it will help you maintain a clean testing environment, and it will also prevent any kind of unwanted browser instances which will take up a lot of resources. Okay, let's try this out as well. Okay, so this is the end of our code. We'll just let's say we want to close the browser. Okay, and we know that there's an instance of a web browser that has been created. Okay, so we'll use the same instance or the same object, right? So we'll use driver.quit. Okay, so driver.quit method basically closes the browser. Okay, right, let's run it and see how it works. So save the file, Control S, and right click on run Flipkart title, whichever is our main. Okay, and it will load. It will show us how exactly the browser opens. It navigates to the window, and once the web page is fully loaded, then it will close. Okay, and here we can see online shopping site, basically whatever we want to achieve. Okay, let's get back. Now, to execute our code, we can right click anywhere in the editor and we can click on the run Flipkart or whatever the main name is. Okay, we have done that. And once we execute the code, it should look something like this. A new browser window will open. It will navigate to flipkart.com. It will grab the title and it will get closed. Okay, and after successful execution, we should be able to see the web page title in the console. All right, so let's quickly summarize what we have learned in this session. Okay, we have learned how to set up our first Selenium Java project using a very powerful tool called as Maven, and we learned how to write our first Selenium test using the Java programming language. Right, we also explored various methods that are available in the Selenium WebDriver API. Okay.